You're listening to the Murder Speaks podcast, the show that spills the tea about true crime. Here's your host, Wendy Hinbest.
Hey, welcome back to Murder Speaks with your host, Wendy.
And your co-host, Brent. As always, the point of the show is that Wendy has done research into a case that we're going to be reviewing in the episode. I have no information on the case whatsoever, so I'll be listening to this the first time, just like the audience does. Any questions you guys might have or clarifications of the case or the timeline, that's kind of my role. So I represent you, and then Wendy gives us the information on the case.
That is correct. So let's get into it.
Yeah, what's the case?
Okay. So today's true crime story is about 41-year-old Karen Johnson of Shreveport, Louisiana.
I think it's pronounced Shreveport.
Okay, sorry, Shreveport, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She was a mother of three, and she was a caretaker. She took care of the elderly. So one night, Yolanda Bailey was at home washing dishes, and it was just after 9 p.m. And all of a sudden, she heard a loud bang. She went outside to see what it was. She heard a woman's piercing scream, as if she was pleading for her life, followed by another bang. So then she called 911.
Bang, like gun bangs?
Like a gun bang.
Okay.
Like a gun going off. So then she called 911.
911. Please, what's your emergency? Yes, ma'am. I heard what sounded like a lady screaming and then a gunshot.
I've seen 2 minutes without fired. Get a gunshot behind a residence. Lady called in and said the lady was screaming and heard a shot.
Right.
So, and then after she hung up the phone with 911, she heard another bang.
Oh, okay.
Another gunshot, yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming you're not on the phone with 911 for seconds. It's probably a few minutes. So this is like a bit of time has passed, and then she's hearing another gun.
To another gunshot, yeah.
Okay. It just seems like a large gap. Like, you would think normally when somebody's going to shoot somebody, they're going to shoot somebody and then get the hell out of there. They're not going to, like, shoot somebody, have a cigarette, and then shoot them again, you know? Like,
Well, it wasn't really a long 911 call. It was pretty quick. So,
but even still, even if it's like 30 seconds.
yeah, I don't know. That's what happened.
Okay.
When the police arrived, they drove around the neighborhood to find out where this gunshot was coming from, obviously, right? A short time later, they found a black Mercedes parked askew in front of a yard with the engine still running.
Oh, okay. Somebody like a drive-by, like somebody got shot in their car then.
That's what the police thought at first, too, maybe some kind of drive-by. Then they found a woman lying on the ground in the driveway in her carport, surrounded by a pool of blood.
Okay.
She had a gunshot wound to the head and the chest. The back of her head was missing. Kind of gruesome.
Ew.
Yeah.
It's like a very strong gun, like a very powerful gun.
Yes.
Because, like, you know, a smaller gun, like a .22 or something, you know, the bullet would most likely just, I guess it could pass through, but it wouldn't cause that kind of damage. This is like a large caliber weapon or ammunition that's going to make the back of your skull, like a portion of your skull blow off.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
also gruesome.
Yes, it was kind of gross. And it was the police, which suggests it was a high velocity gun, firearm.
Not high velocity, high caliber.
High caliber.
Caliber is the size of the bullet. So
Oh.
the larger the caliber, the larger the bullet is, so it causes more damage.
So, yeah, what he said.
Here you go.
So, yeah, it was the police are suggesting it might have been like an AK-47 rifle.
An AK-47?
Yeah, an AK-47 rifle. That's what they suggested.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty powerful.
Yeah, you're kidding. You would use that to go to war.
Oh, wow, to go to war?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know. I've never had an AK-47, so I don't know exactly what they're like. But I know that they're like a very powerful weapon. Like, they're not something that you would just use to protect your house or hunt.
Yeah. There were shell casings, and there was no sign of a struggle. So the police looked inside the house, and they found a woman's purse just sitting there, scattered on the bed in the master bedroom. And among the contents was her identification, which belonged to Karen Johnson.
All right. So we got
Our
the
victim.
got the name of the victim now.
Yes. Karen's slippers were by the open door leading to the carpet area. Normally in the situation, the police wouldn't have touched anything because it is a crime scene, but they just needed to know who this person was. So this time they actually checked her identification. The front door and the back door had no sign of tampering, so this wasn't a break-in or anything like that.
Well, also you said there's a car running outside.
Yeah, there was a car running outside. That's why the police thought maybe it was a drive-by. But then inside the house, there was no sign of forced entry or anything like that.
Wait, was she dead inside the house or outside the house?
Outside the house.
Because what it sounds like initially is that she pulled up in the car, got out of her car, and got ambushed and got shot before she even turned the car off for some reason. Maybe she was going to get something from the trunk or put something in her trunk. But her purse is strewn inside the house.
Yeah.
So it sounds like somebody tossed her purse, but there's no sign of break-in?
There's no sign of forced entry in the house, no. So
okay,
could suggest that maybe she knew the person.
Yeah.
It didn't appear to be a robbery, and nothing was taken either.
Well, I don't know that it wasn't a robbery. I mean, if somebody was going through a purse, they were looking for something.
Yeah. So the police canvassed the area, and one of the neighbors told the police that Karen drove a white car.
A white vehicle.
A white vehicle.
Which is not a black Mercedes.
Exactly. But the car that was parked in front of her house was a black sedan.
And it was left there.
And it was just left there with the engine running. Right?
Okay.
So it looked really bizarre. So after the police ran the place, they found out the black sedan actually also belonged to Karen Johnson.
So she owns 2 cars.
So she had 2 vehicles. Then the police located her white vehicle, and there was blood inside the car.
Okay. It's getting weirder and
Yeah,
weirder.
it's getting more weird, right?
Okay.
Okay. Then all of a sudden, Karen's son arrived at the crime scene. He was all frantic, wanting to know where his mother was, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
As any son would be concerned.
Of course.
So, especially after like a ton of cops are showing up in front of her house.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Although wait, he wouldn't have just known that, so somebody must have called him.
Then his dad arrived, right? Now, him and his dad have different last names because him and his mother never got married. They were just living together. Or
Okay, I see.
They were just together or whatever.
So the mother has her maiden last name, the son has the father's last name.
Exactly. Okay. So the police went and speak to the dad to find out his whereabouts, where he was during the time of the murder. He was called from work to come to the crime scene, so obviously he didn't do this, right?
Yeah. So the police are immediately like knowing that he's not involved in the case because he was at work at the time. Because it sounds like this only just recently happened. Like they heard the gunshots. Somebody called. Gunshots continued apparently. The police are there probably within minutes, and he's been at work this whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was not a suspect at all.
Right.
Karen had a daughter, an older daughter named Brianna. The daughter had to be notified as well, so he gave the police officer Brianna's phone number so he can tell her what happened to her mother. So the police go and talk to Brianna. She told the police that the last time she saw her mother was the night before. That the mother came over, and the whole time she was there, her mother's boyfriend, Anton, was blowing up her phone. And she wasn't answering the phone. And at one point, her daughter was like, "Are you going to go get that?" So then her mother took the phone, called in another room, and the daughter couldn't hear what they were saying, but she can hear her mother's voice get elevated. So they were having an argument.
Some type of argument.
Some type of argument on the phone, yeah. And that was the last time her mother stayed for about a few minutes after that, and then her mother left to go back home. That was the last time her daughter saw her.
Okay.
Now, Karen's boyfriend's name is Anton Cooley. They've been together for about a year. The autopsy confirmed that Karen Johnson was shot with a high-velocity rifle. The first shot entered the temple area, and the second shot entered her forehead.
Oh, 2 shots to the head.
Yeah. Now, there was soot marks on the skin that indicated that the barrel of the gun was touching her skin.
Yeah.
So the person was like...
Very close range.
Yeah, very close range. So this was personal, obviously, right? Now, the temple shot was angled slightly from the front to the back and traveled left to right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So pointing kind of like at her like that, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Now, there was no defense wounds on Karen's body and no signs of a struggle.
Right, yeah.
She probably had no time.
I mean, somebody walks up and points a gun at you, you freeze up, right? You're not going to necessarily get into a fight.
You're in shock, you're scared, you probably know you're going to die.
Yeah,
you freeze,
yeah.
Right? Karen's daughter, Brianna, went to the police station to provide more information to the police.
If you're looking for true crime merch with a great fit and feel, look no further. Crystal Kiss has a wide selection of clothes to brighten up your wardrobe. I like to wear clothes that make a fashion statement and says something about me. Like, our true crime and chocolate design describes me very well. I love chocolate and I love watching true crime, so they go hand in hand. Our hoodies are so soft and can be paired with one of our true crime joggers to make a super comfy outfit. Our true crime t-shirts fits true to size. For a night out, throw on a pair of heels and a crop top. Whatever you're doing, Crystal Kiss has you covered. You people in the US get free shipping. You can also use discount code MURDER15, that's MURDER15, and save 15% off your entire order. Check out our wicked selection of true crime merch today at crystalkiss.com.
And she told the police that her mother and her boyfriend, Anton, met at a nightclub. And the relationship was good in the beginning. He was very nice, like most guys.
How old is this girl? The daughter?
The daughter, I don't know how old. She's older.
She's an adult.
She's an adult, though. She's an adult.
Which means that, like, her mom's probably in her 40s. Like, what kind of 40-year-old is out meeting people at a nightclub?
Her mother was 41.
41. Jeez, man. This sounds like a Jacksonville family or something. Having kids at, like, 18 or 19.
I don't know, man. But, they met at a nightclub. And everything was good in the beginning, like most relationships. Everything's, during lovey-dovey.
Everybody acts like they're perfect at first. Yeah.
Nobody shows their ass in the beginning, right? Everyone's perfect. But then all of a sudden he became more short-tempered, more controlling, more jealous.
It starts off slow and then it snowballs into like full-blown control and violence and murder.
Yes, unfortunately. So he was always manipulating her for her car, for money.
Yeah, the usual.
Yep. So the police look into Anton's criminal history. And it turns out he had multiple assaults against women. No surprise there.
Nothing of any kind of surprise.
No.
The only surprise is that the mother stayed with him this long.
Yeah, that's... And unfortunately, a lot of women do.
I don't know.
Because they think maybe they can change them.
Maybe it's just fear.
Maybe just fear that they'll, in this case, maybe she was afraid.
I think sometimes what it might be, too, is like you're living alone. Like, you've got a kid, although a kid sounds like a grown-up, so I don't know. But anyway, you got rent and car payments and, you have bills. And so then, like, if you break up with that person, now you're under a tremendous amount of financial stress.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people stay because they're scared about their financial future. They're scared they won't meet somebody else.
Yeah,
they
being alone.
Think they can change that person. The person lies to them all the time, telling them that they'll change. And they want to believe that. So I think that all those things are, like, going on at the same time when you're, like, thinking about it, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Anton has prior convictions. 2 in 1996 for possession of an unregistered firearm and possession of a controlled dangerous substance. For simple battery in 1997 and for second-degree battery on 2 separate occasions in 2003 and in 2008. So this guy was busy committing crime.
Well, I mean, he's probably committing a lot of crime that he's not getting caught for because there's quite a gap all of a sudden from like 99, I think you said, to like 2003 and then 2008. Those are years apart.
Yeah.
But he was most likely doing stuff in between there that he didn't get caught for.
Probably.
Yeah.
And it's funny, one of the women that Anton had assaulted, the police officer actually knew. So he went to go and talk to her to find out more information about Anton.
Mm-hmm.
She said basically the same thing, that he was sweet at first, but then he started to change, right? And then one day he beat the crap out of her. So he was arrested for beating her, but then he was found guilty of a lesser charge. So
it gets tricky
because he was back on the street.
It gets tricky because it's all about what you can prove. She probably called the police because he was probably beating on her, but depending on the evidence, like it becomes tricky when you go to court to try and prove like what actually happened.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're just like, well, we know we can get him on this, or he'll plead guilty to a lesser charge. And, a lot of times the courts aren't really about justice. They're just about processing things quickly. Yeah. So they're just like, if you'll plead to this, we'll just get this case done with, and then they can move on to the next, they've probably got a backlog of cases a mile long. So they're not really trying to get justice necessarily. They're just trying to process stuff and close those cases,
Now, Officer Edwards knows Anton's cousin, Jerome. This is a different officer. This isn't the officer that was doing the main case. This is a different officer that knows that officer.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, so they're probably worked together and they're probably talking and exchanging information.
Yes. And also Officer Edwards knew Jerome, and Jerome was Anton's cousin. Okay?
Yep.
So, and Officer Edwards knew Jerome because they were friends and they were in a trucking business together at one point.
But the cop?
Officer Edwards was in a trucking business. This is I found in my research. Officer Edwards was friends with Jerome because they were in a trucking business together.
Okay.
Okay. So Officer Edwards received a call from Jerome around 10:30 p.m. on April the 7th, asking him to come to Jerome's residence. When Officer Edwards arrived, he found an assault rifle on the top of a small pickup truck.
Right. Now, if you follow the news at all, there's a big debate about whether an AK-47 is an assault rifle. I don't care about the definitions at all. But yeah, I think in here we can find that we're using the term probably AK-47, which at the beginning was that the cops thought might be the weapon. And now he's saying that he saw an assault rifle. I mean, it sounds like we're probably talking about the same weapon.
Yeah. So as he retrieved the rifle, he heard a young man, whom he identified as Anton Cooley, say,
all she had to do was let go of the gun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So he's trying to make it seem like...
Wait, so the officer arrived where Tyrone was his name? Or Jerome?
And Anton and Jerome. So he went to Jerome's residence and Anton was there.
Oh, wait, Jerome went to Anton's residence.
No. The Officer Edwards went to Jerome's residence.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And Anton, his cousin, who
was there. And
yes.
Anton is Jerome's cousin.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it was the cop's cousin.
No.
All right. So Jerome called Officer Edwards. He goes to Jerome's house.
Yes.
Sees this gun sitting on top of this vehicle,
truck, yep.
And then overhears Anton say. Anton say she should have just let go of the gun.
Yes. To look at it seemed like
case closed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're done then. It's a wrap. He didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, he clearly did it.
He's making it seem like they were in a struggle, and then he shot her by accident. That's what he's trying to make people believe. But obviously, the cops aren't buying that.
Well, either way, okay. What it is an admission of having brought the gun to the scene and the gun being used to kill that person.
Exactly.
So you've got that admission now. So now all you got to do is just prove that he did it intentionally. It starts getting easier. People think that they're making up a good excuse, like, I just pulled out my gun and I was cleaning my gun with bullets in it because that's how you do. And then the thing just went off right into a person's face that I wanted dead. And then, but it was an accident. And it's like, okay, well, now we've got you admitting that you actually were the one that did it. So all we have to do now is prove that there was motive and that you did it intentionally.
Exactly. They put themselves at the scene of the crime. So holding the gun.
Yeah.
So, make it easier for the police. Officer Edwards advised Jerome that he needed to take Anton to the station. Officer Edwards handcuffed Anton and transported him to the police station. And it looked like he was under the influence of drugs. Like, the police officer tried to have a conversation with him.
I mean, maybe he was under the influence of drugs, but we know he was drinking beer. He could just be under the influence of alcohol.
Or maybe he was exactly. Or maybe he was just drinking because...
But people mix those things all the time. He could easily be smoking dope and drinking or whatever other stuff he's into. It could be whatever.
Yeah.
But he's under the influence.
Of something, yeah. Because the police officer tried to have a conversation with him and ask him questions, and he was just talking gibberish. So he said, okay, forget it. We can't do this.
Just keep him locked up. Wait till he sobers up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. So then the police talked to his cousin Jerome instead.
How you feel, man? Different, man? Nobody knows the circumstances, so I was going to talk to you. Okay. When he came over, what was the first thing he said?
He kept on rambling about calling the people.
But, I said, man, what the hell going on? Man, I think I killed him. You think?
He didn't get the gun trying to hurt him. He said, if you reach down and snatch the gun, I had to get the gun back. And we went to tussling over the gun and boom.
Yeah. He rounded for a minute. And
I finally talked to him, putting the gun on the hood of the car. By this time, I called Mike. Mike, I got a problem over here.
Now, Jerome told the police that he was at home with his wife and heard something outside. It was Anton. Anton told Jerome that he and Karen got into an argument, and he might have shot her by accident.
Twice?
I know.
Wait, it was once in the temple, once in the forehead, and was it not once in the chest as well? Yeah, you don't shoot somebody 3 times by accident.
No.
Can you imagine? This is the scenario. We're just talking. I'm just pointing a gun at her temple for no reason whatsoever. Oops! I just shot you in the temple. Are you okay? Oh, was he using the thing to nudge her forehead to see if she was okay and shot her by accident? And, I shot her twice. I hope she's still alive. And I'll poke her in the chest a few times with the gun. Oh, I shot her again. I can't believe it. The gun went off 3 times by accident directly into her most vital organs.
Yeah, so ridiculous. I said before, she kept calling Karen. She wasn't answering her phone. So he got pissed off. He thought she was with some other man, some other guy, whatever. She was lying to him.
And it might be under the. A lot of times, people that have drug and alcohol addictions, they become very bitter, very jealous. They become very suspicious and paranoid, especially if they're in fact doing the things that they're accusing the person of doing,
Yes.
which is almost always the case. But yeah, so if he was out drinking, getting high, whatever, all of a sudden all the bitterness starts going on in his head. He's building up something in his head. Like this woman's just sitting at home watching Scooby-Doo in her slippers, but in his mind, she's like doing the most depraved things imaginable.
Yeah.
Getting himself all worked up, shows up there in a fit of fury, accidentally shoots her in the temple, the forehead, and the chest, and then leaves to try and sort things out, because of such a tragic accident.
Yeah, he was just upset because she was the whole time she was at her daughter's house with her daughter, and he's blowing up her phone, and he thinks that she's with some other guy. He's going crazy.
Yeah.
When Karen got home, then he came to her house with the rifle, knocked on the door, and of course she opened it. Didn't know that he had a big rifle in his hand. So then he chased her through the house. She got outside. He chased her outside, and then she pretty much pleaded for her life. This is probably when the woman in the beginning who was washing dishes heard a woman like pleading for her life.
Oh, yeah.
And then he
Then heard the
shot her.
gunshots, yeah.
Yeah, and she heard the gunshots, right?
And there was a gap between the first two shots and the final shot. Like the first two accidental shots that killed her, and then there's like a gap of time, and then he, son of a gun goes off by accident again.
Yeah, maybe that during that little gap, that's when she was pleading for her life. And then he just said...
No, guaranteed not.
So what happened?
If the first accidental shot went into her temple, she'd have died instantly. If the first accidental shot was in her forehead, she would have died instantly. If the shot to her chest was the first shot, it might not have killed her instantly. But if you get shot in the chest, I don't think you can talk. I'd be surprised if you'd be able to talk, either from the physical injury or just the sheer shock of the situation. She was pleading for her life first.
Yeah.
Then he shot her twice. Probably was, but he accidentally shot her. So he's probably using the gun to see if she was okay. Maybe he was using the gun to try and do CPR, and then he pulled the trigger by accident, and he's like, son of a bitch,
Yeah. Okay. After he shot her, he jumped into her vehicle and took off.
The white car.
Took off in the white car.
Right, okay.
Took off in the
white car. Which is
car.
why they found it later with the blood on it. Because when all those bullets were getting fired off by accident, he must have got some accidental blood on his hands.
Now, what happened was he abandoned the car close to his cousin's house. Went to his cousin's house. Right?
All I can picture, it's just so stupid. All I can picture is it's almost like Muppets. Like I'm picturing like him knocking on the door, and they're like running through the house, like screaming with their hands up, and he's driving over to his cousin's house and bails out of the car, and he's just running down the street like with his hands flailing in the air towards his cousin's house. I know it's very serious, but it just like the whole thing it's so stupid. It sounds comical.
Yeah.
It's not comical. What happened to this woman is terrible. It was probably a gruesome scene. Her family's probably devastated. It's by no means comical, but the way that this guy is acting and talking and explaining things is just, it's comical in the sense that it's just so beyond belief.
Well, yeah, because, come on now. You can't say it was an accident. Like, come on. Like, one shot, maybe you can get away with one shot being an accident, but 3? No.
I don't think you can get off as one shot as being an accident. It's not like there's this like it's not like there's just cases. Like if guns just went off whenever they felt like or whatever, there would just be all these cases of people like at home eating dinner and then the gun just going off and putting a hole in the dining room or putting a hole in the bedroom or in the closet where it's stored.
That's true.
It would just be random guns going off with bullets and walls.
Yeah.
But that's not what you ever hear all the time. Every time an accident happens, every time a gun accidentally goes off, it ends up buried 6 inches in somebody's forehead.
Yes.
It's not a coincidence that it would be a wild coincidence actually if every time an accidental gun discharge happened, the bullet wound up in people's foreheads. They would wind up all over the place. The vast majority of the earth isn't covered by people's foreheads. So like the vast majority of bullets would be like going through somebody's leg or going into a wall or going into a car or buried into a mattress or into a television set. It wouldn't always be right in dead square in the center of somebody's forehead.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Of course I'm right.
Okay. After listening to the testimony of witnesses to the homicide and other witnesses who previously had been battered by Anton Cooley, the jury returned its verdict of guilty as charged in 35 minutes.
You can bring up prior cases against a person in a current case? I didn't know. I thought you couldn't do that because it would color the jury's impression of the person.
Well, I think what they were doing, they were talking to women that he had previously beat up, maybe to show a pattern of behavior. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so maybe because those potential crimes, was he convicted in those cases? I don't know how the law works. It seems like a lot of times you'll be listening to like a case, and they'll be talking about how they can't bring up prior, like even crimes that they've been convicted of in the past. Sometimes they're not allowed to bring up in a current case because they're saying it could color the jury's
opinion.
Yeah, color the jury's opinion of the current case, which should be decided by the facts of that case. So, but I guess maybe the laws change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It gets a little murky when you're looking at cases from all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that in this situation, it would be helpful to know what he's done to other women because it's a pattern of behavior.
Of course.
Yeah.
If you know that somebody has a criminal history, it makes it more likely that they committed the current crime. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, if they actually did commit the crime, it's wonderful evidence to help you convict the person of a crime that they've committed. If the person just so happens not to have committed that particular crime,
I guess I can see that.
It might color the jury's opinion towards the person doing it.
Even though they're innocent.
If the person, of that crime. There might be a huge, criminal offender that deserves to be in jail, but you can't put people in jail just because you think they deserve it. It has to be based on the case. But regardless, this guy did it. So this guy did it.
So Anton Cooley was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Which state was this again?
Shreveport, Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay, Louisiana is like Texas. It has very strict laws. Because I'm trying to figure out why they didn't just charge him with first-degree murder. Because if you show up with a weapon and somebody dies, it's very hard to argue that you didn't go there to kill them. But I guess if you can get life in prison with no parole with second-degree murder, there's no need to try and prove first-degree murder.
Well, before we go, we just want to mention that we do have a store called Crystal Kiss.
Yep, Crystal Kiss. Spelled with a K for Crystal. Kiss is always spelled with a K. CrystalKiss.com. And what can you get there?
You get women's murder merch, like the one I'm wearing today.
Yeah, addicted to true crime. All different kinds of, so the genre, of course, is true crime.
Yes.
But there's all different kinds of styles. So and people have different interests in true crime. So you can go on there, you can find different styles that kind of speak towards your level of interest in it. And then, of course, there's different sizing. And I think the colors are basically black and white. But you can look for whatever, suits your fancy. And
we have T-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, crop tops, and a Murder Speaks hat. And if you use discount code MURDER15,
you get 5% off. No? 10% off.
Closer.
15% off?
Bingo.
Holy cow.
And if you are in the States, people.
Yep, free shipping in the States. If you're outside of the States, we're sorry. We're doing the best we can. All the stuff comes from the States, so the shipping just is free to the States. So if you're in the States, buy whatever you want, and the shipping's free. If you're buying from outside the States, the prices are very reasonable and the shipping rates aren't too bad. And the more items you buy, you kind of spread out the shipping cost, or you lower the average. But anyway, so the more you buy, the better the prices on the shipping. So if you're looking for something, go ahead and look for like 2 or 3 things at once and just bring that cost down. Just a little advice. I don't know.
Yes.
It's also kind of self-serving because we're telling you to buy more, but.
But go and check it out, people. Like, lots of different designs. You will not be disappointed, I promise.
CrystalKiss.com, Murder Speaks 15.
With a K. And before we go, I want to mention we do have a Patreon.
Yes. Patreon members, there's an extra episode every week. So go ahead, check out our Patreon, which is called?
Murder Speaks.
Very, very clever, right? It's the same. So go look that up, and it's a very small price. How much is it?
$5 per month.
$5 per month. You get 1 extra episode every week. That's 4 episodes for $5. That's $1.25 an episode. It's a great deal.
It's a good deal, man.
Go check it out.
Yeah, right now. Right now.
Yeah. Like push stop and go.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. And again, like I say at the end of every episode, whoever knew, all those of you who knew Karen Johnson, we're very sorry for your loss. And we mean no disrespect. All of our sources are in the show notes.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.